Good afternoon and welcome to Destination Wellbeing. This is our Christmas Destination Wellbeing. So our topic this afternoon is nutrition, and you're very welcome to Destination Wellbeing, Anya. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
And just to remind our viewers this afternoon that anybody watching in, sort of our opinions are based on our knowledge and our sharing. So just remember, if you have any concerns about, I will probably not be talking too seriously about nutrition today, but if you do have any concerns about digestion or health or well-being, just to check in with your GP as a first protocol, and possibly then you might decide to see a nutritionist as that time goes on. So busy time of year for you, Anya. I'm sure even at home you're getting excited with all the Christmas treats and bits and pieces as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think Christmas is always a very busy time of year when it comes to food, particularly in my house anyway. We start planning at about October for the Christmas menu, although a little bit behind this year, but yeah, exciting times.
It's been a very quick Christmas this year, I think. It seems to, one minute it seemed to be weeks away, and then all of a sudden it's on top of us. So what's on your Christmas menu this year?
Well, for home, it's got to be the traditional turkey and ham, and I do try to kind of change it every year. But generally then, your kind of roast vegetables, you're obviously your roast potatoes, and then I do my own homemade stuff, my own homemade sauces and stuff like that. So quite traditional, but maybe with a little twist for my own.
Yeah, just to keep it. I suppose there's so many flavours associated with Christmas as well. It's really that time of year when a lot of people go all out, but it doesn't, for most of us, it doesn't vary too much, but it's always nice to put some slight variations in there. I've been out over the last couple of weekends, and you know, the Christmas dinner, the traditional, but I had sprouts on Saturday evening, and you know, they were done with bacon, and I think there was actually a wee bit of cinnamon in there, and they were really, really good.
Delicious.
But it's a very easy time of year to go overboard with food as well.
Yes.
So what would be your top tips in terms of nutrition and just watching the waistline over Christmas? Well,
yeah, unfortunately there's so much temptation out there at this time of the year, but as I would say, is it does only come once a year. Is have your treats and have your breakout periods, but just basically don't try not to go too crazy the whole time, because unfortunately it does play havoc with your digestive system, i.e. most people tend to feel quite bloated around Christmas time.
Yeah.
So, and I think this could be associated with maybe tins of sweets, boxes of sweets, often excess alcohol, maybe just coming out of your usual good routine.
Yeah. And I think really all year through, that's a really good point to make, is that it's an 80-20 type rule, isn't it? I mean, you can't be, it's impossible to be good all of the time. And,
absolutely.
And we have this, I suppose, relationship with food, that it's good or bad, and it's whereas everything in moderation is probably a bad, even moderation itself.
Absolutely. So I think so. I don't like when people term the good and bad food, because it gives kind of a negative connotation, and to be honest with you, I think if things that are even termed bad foods, is a little bit of that every so often is not going to do you too much harm.
Yeah, no, it's different. If we're eating it and multiplying it out, over, you know, if it's one bar of chocolate, it's a box of chocolates and things like that, and that is the temptation at Christmas time. I know I myself am quite a chocolate fan, and I do like to have some chocolate most days.
Yes.
But if I was to buy more of it, I would eat more.
You would eat more. I think the secret is
simple.
Don't have it in the cupboard.
Yeah.
It's particularly if it's your weak point as well. Is if you fancy it, go to the shop and get it there and then. But if it's in the cupboard, you will eat it.
Yeah. My mission is, even if I do fancy it, I need to walk to the shop to get it. So that kind of
when it's closed.
That's when you think about it. And I think that's a good thing about Christmas as well, is that it is a nice time of year to incorporate some walks and getting out and about a wee bit when you're not so tied to the routine and the schedule of day-to-day life. I know we would try and get in at least one or two nice family walks over the Christmas period.
And it's nice to get the kids out as well. I think, you know, they've 2 weeks off at Christmas time as well, and you tend to go a little bit stir crazy after about 2 days in the house. So even to get them out, get them to the park, get them for a walk. If you have a dog, even better, get out for a family walk, on your bike, whatever, but just even some fresh air for them is quite good.
It keeps us all, and it just keeps everything. It actually clears the head as well, because most people aren't used to being in such close confines as what we are over Christmas Day and
with each other.
With each other. They're not used to, because there's not much else to do, and there's this forced family time that is pretty. Well, they might all get on the rest of the year. Everybody likes their space, so to get out and about and can help to diffuse atmospheres and stuff as well.
Absolutely, I think so. And again, the other side of it is that when you're in the house and you're bored, you do tend to nibble. even when you're not hungry. So, and we're all guilty of that, I think every one of us as well. So once you're out and about, I think it sort of takes the emphasis off that.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about food, there's a lot of that. We talked about terming foods, good foods, bad foods, but there's a lot of very negative emotions associated with food, aren't there?
Unfortunately, they are. Yeah. And I'm a chef background, and I have to say that's my first love is food. Yeah. And when I see that, you're thinking food was never meant to be negative. No. But it's the guilt we put on ourselves as well. And that's why I really do advocate with people is the 80-20 rule is if you have a bad day, don't beat yourself up over it. Just get back on the wagon the next day and try to sort of readjust your diet, but really don't go down the guilt path.
Yeah, one day is not going to, it's not one day's decision that makes anybody be affected through digestion. And I suppose weight is initially the first thing that we think about when it comes to food, but there's a lot more that's going on in there. It might be irritable bowel, there's a lot of digestive related problems, and you are what we eat, so not just digestion related, but a lot of chronic conditions are made worse by food. Is that something that you would work with people on, or?
Yes, it would be. I think generally, certainly when I was seeing clients myself, is the one big thing people would have come to me about was digestive problems. It would have been the top one, digestion and weight. And then I found the two of them were going hand in hand. So basically, certainly from my experience, is that if your digestive system isn't really working at its optimum level, you will find the rest of the body slowing down. So, and there's a lot of simple things we can do to actually combat this. And even two top things is, try and sort of reduce the amount of sugary products you're eating, because they play havoc with your digestion, which then lead to your bloating, your gas, all those usual symptoms. But also as well is another very simple tip, which is free, is you gotta drink more water as well to actually keep your digestive system in tip top. And if you can do those two things over Christmas, I guarantee most people will probably see a reduction in the symptoms.
Look, and it's and the water, and I think as well, it's one of the times I would know even once I'm out of routine, I drink less water.
Exactly, me too.
And I think that's fairly common for most of us when you're used to, I'm in the office and the water filter's there, or you're in that, I get up in the morning and I have what I have in the morning, and you drink water before you leave, and you do all that, and it's all fairly routine, and you're managing to get in your 8 glasses of water a day, or maybe more sometimes, or a wee bit less. It just depends on the day. But come the weekend and come Christmas holidays and stuff like that, you realise, I find myself on it maybe later on a Saturday evening, and it's not alcohol related because I don't drink, but where I sort of start to feel nearly headachy, and then I actually realise, all that's wrong is I just haven't drank enough water today. I'm dehydrated.
It actually makes you feel as well quite almost a spaced feeling.
Yeah.
Like as if your head's very cotton wool like. Yeah. And then that's when you realise, oh my goodness, I haven't had anything yet.
I haven't had it.
And it's very easy to slip into that.
Yeah, and particularly when you've got 2 weeks or for a lot of people, you've got 2 weeks of lack of routine, or even just a couple of days. It can be. So I suppose consciously drinking. I know one of the pieces of advice is a glass of alcohol, a glass of water type thing, and that can help. So it's not a case of saying no, you can never have it.
No,
it's
it's the moderate
support
thing
your body with it as well.
Absolutely. Again, as I say, and then the next day, just make sure you're just having that few extra glasses of water as well, just to top up and make sure you're properly hydrated.
The hydration is because I would have even noticed it. Even as a teenager, late teens, or I never drank, but I would have found that a lot of the time I was almost hungover.
Yes.
Like my friends were, but it was maybe we'd been out in a nightclub, you were dancing, you were dehydrated, and you were suffering those same symptoms, not to the same levels maybe, but
probably not.
And I used to feel bad enough. I used to think, oh my God, why would anybody put themselves through that? It must be just horrific.
At the time, I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, at the time it feels, so and obviously then it's the time of year now where I've heard 3 or 4 people this week, come January, this is it. This is the time when all the
extremes,
the New Year resolution, the extremes again. And certainly I would encourage, I do a holistic health and weight program for a lot of community groups as well. And one of the things I've encouraged people is, set your goals that are realistic.
Yes.
There's nothing as bad as breaking down your goals the first day. I'm never eating another bar of chocolate. I'm never taking another drink of alcohol. And we all know that those goals aren't going to last or be realistic.
And then, to be honest with you, you just end up after 1 week where you've broken them all, you feel worse, and you go 10 times crazier. Yeah. So again, totally, that goes back to the moderate approach of, you know, don't beat yourself up. If you have 1 bad day, 2 bad days, just forget about it, put it behind you, and move on again, and keep getting back onto it again. And if you combine that, I think, with your simple exercise plan, it's a whole lot easier as well. But it's just that moderate, you know what I mean? Like if during the week, if you just stick to your goals during the week, then you can come off a little bit at the weekend.
Yeah, you can relax a bit and enjoy. And I think whenever you make positive lifestyle changes, and we hear those words are very easy to say, but long-term changes that are lasting rather than short-term 2 to 3 day or 6 week programs or things like that. It's about making goals that are going to stick with you and support you through, really. I
think so. And one of the things I certainly find with people when it comes to food is that generally if it's weight related, it's an extreme plan they take on, and unfortunately as human beings we're not great with those type of things, well, most of us aren't anyway. So then when they fall off that regime, they seem to go 10 times worse. So one of the things I try to advocate with people is, you know, something is if you go back to your basics of food and just look at your basic eating the way it is, and if you can change that and retrain those habits, you probably can come away from weight loss plans, dieting, anything like that, because you're looking at food in a whole different new way.
You have a different appreciation for it, and I think educating and understanding where our food comes from as well is a big. I mean, a few years ago I still would have saw the treat at the weekend maybe as takeaway or whatever, and honestly now it's like, you know, I don't even want it. It's so far from a treat. Not to say I don't have it the odd time, but it's not the thing. It doesn't have the same attraction to I don't have the same attraction to it as I would have had, because my relationship has changed with food and respect for my body and what's taken in and stuff.
That's it. That's it. And I think as well as now we're trying to get people more towards looking at not just takeaways and not just maybe the sugary foods as their treat, but also it could be something like maybe possibly buying maybe nicer cheese, nicer meat or something, maybe a bit more expensive. That could be their treat as well. So buying better quality, maybe locally sourced food, and that can be a treat as well.
Because the flavours are just
amazing,
fantastic.
And there is a massive difference, and that, as I say, is when I talk to people and try and get them to look at food much more different than they would have, is that appreciation does grow. And that's why I say, take them back down to basics. It does grow from there, and it does change people and how they look at food.
And I think once we change it, then it's, you know, I have been guilty in the past of making the comment and getting such a strong reaction from people. I say, you can eat anything you want.
Absolutely.
And they'll look at me and they'll go, what do you mean? And I said, we just have to change what you want.
That's exactly.
It's changing what you want. Is the secret, and is very successfully done. I'm sure you've experienced with lots of clients.
Oh, totally. That's it. It's changing this. When people say, how come you can eat what you want? You don't necessarily want processed food 7 days a week. But if you're eating good, basic, healthy food that you know has come from a good source, you don't want to eat as much of it anyway, because your taste buds have developed and it actually tastes different to you.
And you're fuller.
You're fuller as well, but your appreciation of what it tastes like. It's sort of, as I say, changing people's mindset on what actual good food is, and it doesn't need to cost the earth.
And it doesn't even need to be particularly the traditional healthy good food. I mean, there's nothing as nice as good chips.
Oh my goodness!
Proper, you know, potatoes, nice, cooked really well, you know, and in moderation, your bit of salt, your bit of vinegar, and so it's not a case of versus the very skinny French fry that is so far from a potato.
Yes, that is it. It's using real food. It's using good basic ingredients that you know has come from John the farmer down the road, or the beef has come from just up the road. And that's one of the things I have been working a lot on recently. My own business is looking for really good quality, locally sourced food that you know is very, very high quality.
Have you come across the Irish Kobe beef?
I have. There's a place up in Forkhill, does it?
Really good.
And it's actually, when you actually look at what's available locally, it's very, very exciting. Even down to cheese suppliers, meat suppliers, local guys growing their own carrots, beautiful. Butter suppliers. There are so many local suppliers. And again, don't cost the earth. Either as well, importantly.
And you'll be taken, I would have even noticed that when I made the shift to, and I don't really eat I eat very little chicken now, but when I made the shift to from, I suppose, I would have always tried to source free range chicken, but even when I swapped to organic chicken, there was less of it.
Yes.
But it was more filling.
It's even a different colour.
It's a different colour.
Yeah.
There's a different. You need less of it, and you know, if you're using it for a chicken curry or whatever, pack it up with veg.
Yes,
it would be.
absolutely.
You know, have a look at. Can I use a bit less meat, slightly better quality meat, or poultry in what I'm using? But can I maybe add in some extra veg and stuff like that,
That's
so
it.
that I'm still getting
creative.
the balance. Yeah.
You have to be. You take your basic recipes and you're being creative as to how can you actually bulk them up with, and don't always stick to the same veg. This is something I always tell people: is every time you go to the supermarket or the greengrocers or the veg shop, is look down the row. What haven't you had this week, and try to include even 2 new vegetables once a week. And keep building on that, and it saves you sort of eating the same sort of carrots, parsnips, and potatoes every single day.
And I think, as for me, one of the things as well is the importance of eating seasonally. So,
Yes.
which allows you that you vary throughout
That's
the year.
it.
You're eating what you need to eat, what your body needs at a particular time of year, but you're getting quite a lot of variety. And I think, again, that's one of the things that often we fall into this routine that all year round, 52 weeks of the year, our diet usually doesn't vary too much. So if we're, whilst we may be taking in too much of something in it, that's a problem. But the other bit can be where we're maybe taking in not enough of a particular, or we're not getting access because we're missing out possibly a whole food group or something that's just not incorporated in. I'm sure most of us probably have the same breakfast every morning. If we have breakfast, for most of it, it's not going to change very much most of the month, most of the year.
Exactly.
Lunch, again, depending on people's circumstances, probably stays fairly similar as well.
Yeah.
Tea time, maybe a wee bit more flexibility around that, but even at that, again, most of us fall into routine and habit, and it's just because it's easy and it's familiar.
And I think as well, it's like, it's a lot of people now, particularly say parents who are working and coming home as well, it's time constraint too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of time pressure on people as well, and they come in at 6, half 6 in the evening. They don't have the time to sit down and do that. And this is where I would often say to people as well is, get yourself a recipe portfolio of maybe 20, 30 recipes that are quick and easy. And there's so many recipe books now on the market that it's easy enough to get. And if you have them, and if you got even an extra hour at the weekend to even bulk make, you save yourself so much time and stress during the week. And it doesn't have to be big elaborate meals. No. It can be your normal, it could be even your normal pasta sauces that you're home making, or your bologneses, or anything, chicken stew or anything like that. But you can get into the freezer. And again, it varies your diet. Takes the pressure off at tea time as well.
Yeah, and hopefully, and then I know one of the big areas as well is incorporating children into that making process, so that from a very young age they've got a very good appreciation of food.
That's it. It's teaching them where it comes from as well, because I know a few years back, even with Jamie Oliver and all, when kids didn't know what a tomato was and they didn't know what a carrot was, and that's actually very, very worrying, I have to say now. But that's one of the things to do with my own children, is try to get them a little bit more knowledgeable about where the meat comes from, where the vegetables come from, why they need them is another thing as well. Children are like sponges, and if you explain to them why they need it and what happens if they don't have this in their diet, they're a lot more open to actually including it in their diet.
I can imagine that definitely has that effect, because we all like to understand why something's important.
Exactly.
It's one thing telling somebody you need to eat X, Y or Z, but actually why do I need to eat that?
And often as well, as certainly I have found, be it adults and children, is that when you explain why they need it and what happens if they don't have it, it goes in a lot quicker. Yeah. Because none of us like to be told what to do, but if we're explained to why we need it, there's a lot more sort of, there's less reluctance there to go, no, I'm not eating that.
Yeah, if we're given the information, then prevention's better than cure, really, isn't it? And the food, as Hippocrates said many years ago, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food.
And it can be, it really can be. Like, and I think it's more and more coming out now how healing food, certain foods are, and the properties in foods are.
Yeah, it seems to be getting much more coverage, and that's that even I was reading something this morning was that, you know, medicines aren't healthcare, medicines are sick care.
Yes.
Food is healthcare.
Yes.
Because your body needs those building blocks to keep it healthy.
Absolutely.
And it reminded me of a number of weeks ago, we had, right back at the very beginning in one of our first episodes of Destination Wellbeing, we had Kieran Watson, the local acupuncturist, in, and Kieran was saying that in ancient Chinese times, they paid the physician until the time where the emperor or whoever got sick.
Yeah.
And at the point of them getting sick, they stopped being paid because their job was to keep them healthy.
And they didn't.
And that there's that culture that I suppose maybe the Western world hasn't fully adapted just yet, is that it's an idea of prevention's better than cure, and keeping your body healthy is much easier to do than to deal with it when it has problems.
Absolutely, and I think they go they go hand in hand, the nutrition and the your normal traditional medicine as well. But definitely, in my experiences, poor diet has been the cause of quite a lot of it, as we said earlier, digestive problems and all.
Digestive, even right down, I mean, I would see people that making dietary shifts can help with arthritis, it can help with, you know, such a fibromyalgia pain, such a wide range, because a lot of that can be food trigger based.
Absolutely.
Sleeping problems can be sorted out by eating right, and even stress management. So I suppose the whole, if we look at health as an overall package, obviously the nutrition and what we eat plays one part of it. For me, the second bit is exercise, and even not necessarily excessive exercise or running roads, or because I think a lot of the time, you know, running is great in moderation. It's not for everybody. So I think we've a wee bit of a culture with things like maybe running or fitness classes and things like that, whereby it has to be an all or nothing. I either have to be doing it all of the time, or I'll not bother. Whereas there's a wee bit, for some of us, it's great for people who really enjoy it, but for some of us, there's a wee bit in between where a 20-minute walk twice a week is better than no 20-minute walk at all, and it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. And then the other element to it is obviously managing stress. And they all play. Diet and exercise are going to play a part in managing stress, and managing stress is going to help you to eat better. And so there's all
it's definitely a cycle.
They're all so interconnected.
Yeah, it really is. And like what you said, Joanne, on the exercise, is that I think we've sort of been programmed to, unless you are sweating, you haven't actually worked out. But as you said, is, you know, your 20-minute walk, even a 20-minute, 30-minute cycle, it doesn't have to sort of break you.
It can be, or, you know, again, now coming up over Christmas, maybe when there is a wee bit more time, taking a walk to the shop instead of jumping in the car. All of these things are great when you need them. But if you can incorporate a wee bit more, or walking that bit further, taking the stairs, doing different.
It's back to moderation again. And if you're doing the moderate exercise and the moderate food approaches, you will start to naturally feel better. And as you said, you will definitely sleep better. Which then means that every day after that's a little bit easier.
And then so it all interlinks. And I know one of the big things Christmas time too is people try to maybe look at getting creative with leftovers. What would be what's your top tip for using Sprites or turkey leftovers?
This is it, you know, you can just be careful with your leftovers as well. One of the things, particularly turkey, more turkey really, is that don't leave it too long. I mean, I would advocate, if you've got turkey leftovers, within maybe 2 days, eat it. And maximum maybe 3 days, but I would say 2 days is just be careful with the leftovers, that they are still okay. But again, if you've leftover meat, leftover vegetables, you can add them to anything. You know, you can be creative with your recipes. They can be popped into curries, they can be popped into stir fries. Anything like that, it take 5 or 10 minutes to make, and it saves them being put in the bin as well.
Well, that's it, because I know from student days of working in delis and things like that, people just come in and, you know, they're buying 3 times what they would buy any normal week, and we have this panic buying nearly. You see the shops and trolleys piled high, and
I call it famine buying.
That's what it looks like.
I did be waiting for the famine to come, and it never comes.
No, it hasn't happened yet. But and I suppose that comes back to a time when shops did close, and we didn't have access to as much fresh produce and stuff maybe as what we do.
But you'll find as well, if you're buying like that, is probably over half it'll probably go in the bin, because your fridge can't hold it and you can't eat it. And unless you're going to be cooking 20 hours a day, it's not going to be used. But again, this is why I'd say to people is make your list, because you're probably going to save yourself a load of money, but also you're going to stop actually throwing a load of food in the bin as well, which you don't want to start doing.
No, well, waste is, I suppose, it allows, even I think that's an important message for children as well, that, you know, we don't need to waste food. We can use it up, and we can, and I know from my sort of food hygiene background, obviously, as you said, the turkey leftovers are one that we want to be particularly careful with, and just making sure that they get into the fridge as well, because I often see where because the turkey, the carcass is still quite big, even though the meat's off it maybe doesn't fit in the fridge, or the fridge is full of other things, and it's like, oh, that'll be fine sitting in the oven for 2 days. And it's just bearing in mind that even stripping the meat off the carcass and into containers and into the fridge is probably the best way is most definitely the best way to go.
And if you do it as you're eating it, so if you're doing it as you're carving it off, carve the whole thing, strip all the bones and use what you need and put the rest in the fridge, you should be absolutely fine. But again, just be careful how far afterwards you're eating it as well.
Yeah, within sort of, as you say, 48 hours is usually.
Absolutely. Make sure it is in the fridge in that time as well, because that's the last thing you want at Christmas is about a food poisoning.
Yeah, no, definitely. Nobody looks forward to that.
No.
And again, most people go sort of all out on the Christmas, so we've got the starters, the main course, the dessert. And what would be your Christmas dessert one?
Well, I was trying to think of which one I like this year. I have 2 in mind. I tend to I don't tend to eat a lot of sweet things myself. I sometimes make them for people, but in my houses we don't tend to. And not from a really nutritional point of view. I guess if it's just there, you'll eat it. I think either little chocolate fondants or I do a lovely pecan and maple syrup cake.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Yeah, and they last as well.
It's those sort of heavier desserts are nice around Christmas time too, aren't they? The comfort.
You eat less of them, but there's something comforting and wintry about them, and I have to say I do love them.
Nice,
I do indulge.
Nice in front of the fire at this time of year. So, well, Anya, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon, and I know a busy new year ahead for you with your new cookery school, and lots of exciting things going on there. So thanks a million for taking the time out of all that planning to come in and join us and to share some tips. And thank you to our viewers for watching in. Just to remind you that I'll be in with Rowan on his breakfast show. I do the breakfast show with Rowan on a Thursday morning, so I'll be reiterating some of our tips for the listeners on the breakfast show. And that the breakfast show goes out every morning from the morning show, I suppose, goes out every morning from 7:30 through till 10:30 on Destination Wellbeing, or Destination Uri rather than Destination Wellbeing, and Destination Wellbeing on a Tuesday and a Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. And we've lots of different episodes on there. So so far this year we've covered nutrition, we've covered acupuncture, we've covered reflexology, pregnancy. There's a wide range of shows on, so something in there for everybody. Do check those out, and thank you very much for watching in.